Hello. Please raise your hand if you don't speak Polish. Okay. That was just to ensure we have to do it in English. Okay, my name is Piotr Nabielec. Let's talk about unsexy word, productivity, some key habits. But I think today we had presentations about balance. This presentation, I think, is more about balance, but let's find out in the middle. But the conference is about you, about how to productively use this time. And one of the aspects is, of course, getting to know some presentations, but also getting to know some new people. Especially that today there is a party. It's always strange in IT circles to have parties, but let's do a quick exercise because that's one of the goals why you're here, to meet new people. So I'll give you 2 minutes. You can just grab friends around you that you don't know yet, and just in 2 minutes tell your name, what company you work for, what you do, so you have more friends in the evening. That's 2 minutes of productive time. Let's go. Jak masz ochotę, to się przedstawiamy, w sensie gadamy, możesz się dołączyć do jakiejś grupy, bo po prostu mówimy 2 minuty. Jak chcesz kogoś poznać, to po prostu się dołącz. Wystarczy. Okay, that's it. So, let's go. I'll wait a few more seconds and then go. So, the good news, we have a party in the evening, so you can continue. And if you don't like the person you talk to, you don't have to continue. That's the good story. So, productivity. Let's talk about some serious stuff. If this is going to work. So, Central Statistical Office in Poland says the average man in Poland would live about 74 years. So, that's my progress bar if I'm a statistical poll. So productivity is not about how to squeeze more, but how to use this box that's left. Of course, that's a statistical poll. I can be diagnosed with some sickness, and my doctors can tell me you have 1 year left, and that will be the case. Now it's a different story, and so we are pretty uncertain how big the box is. We just know it's limited. And Where's our focus every day? Usually we talk about how to do startups, how to earn more money, how to do interesting stuff. But then the question is, at the end of this bar, do we look backwards and say, that was a good life? That's a productivity, like how to use this time well. So, you know this guy? Top 10. If you don't, then maybe that's actually a good thing. Top 10 most rich people in the world. Warren Buffett, I think $70 billion around of wealth. And this guy in one of his famous interviews says, Bill Gates, I really recommend this one. He says, I can buy anything I want, basically. You know, he has more money than some countries make in a year. So that's Warren. But then he adds one thing, but I can't buy time. Okay, that's just the thing that's running out. That scares me, okay? That's the driver of my life for the last years. That I can inherit money, I can invest it, I can go for a raise, I can earn more, but time is just running out. This is just crazy. So my past and my time, that's my past. I've been a software developer for many years. That's Jerry. We try to make that board alive. I'm a kernel software driver developer for this thing. And he is the electrical engineer, and one of our beautiful 6 gigabit optic link doesn't seem to synchronize all time, so that was so much fun. That was 10 years, I think 10 to 15 years ago. And so my background is purely IT and development, and then I moved into some other areas. But for this presentation, I have to say I'm also a musician, and feel invited. 5 p.m. there will be some interesting instruments that you can play, including this one that you see here. So at 5, I think 5, yeah, it's 5 p.m. There'll be hobbies for geeks, and I'll have my 30-minute slot out there. And if you want to try some instruments, let's do it. So, because IT is very logic focused, it's usually purely algorithms and data, and then there's something about human nature that's more into emotions, intuition, and then we have these two worlds that somehow I would like to connect. Funny story is that 2 years ago I had a privilege to play in front of this guy, maybe you know him, that's Leszek Możdżer, one of the most famous jazz musicians in the world, and this time the role reversed. I was playing and he was on the audience. So getting feedback from such guy was something that I never dreamed of, but I hope that's just the start. And I'm also a lot into movement, into things like here, maybe more into acrobatics and dance. And I try to work a lot with my body, as well as, I don't know, massage and things related to something very tangible that you can touch and have contact with. And that's important for me because that's the productivity I believe in. It's somewhere in the middle between these two worlds, not words. So my past is also, so last 6 years I spent doing this before pandemic and this for the last 5 years. So this is, let's say, a normal productivity training. We have a board game that we play that emphasizes some things about energy planning, weekly planning, and what do you do when you have suddenly 3 times more tasks that you can handle than the decisions you face. And then there's an online course, 30-day, about habits. Anyone went through one of those? I met some people, actually, I even remember them, but they already know me, so they went to the other room. So 6 years of collecting things and getting feedback from people, what works. That's a beautiful thing. You cannot go to studies and study productivity. They will teach you productivity for factories. But there's no subject about your own healthy productivity. There's a subject of how to squeeze more of your time. That's probably 21st century before COVID. So the thing I would like to share with you today is just 6 years of collecting things that work for many different people. So different things work for somebody that's in IT and can code for 6 hours uninterrupted. And it's different for the young mother who has attention span of, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes. But there are some general rules that everybody could follow. So now, a history lesson, I have to test your age. If you smile, then I know, let's say, you come from my times. So do you remember this? Yes. The capacity of this thing? 1.44 megabytes. That's smaller than some JavaScripts now. It's hard to believe. We had compressed games into multiple disk drives, floppy drives like this, to just transfer them between homes. Maybe you remember this. You remember the transfer? 56 kilobits per second. Yes, if you had this US robotics on one of the Zixel, that was like, whoa. Not everybody had a telephone line that can handle it. Normally there would be 33.6. Okay, kilobits per second. Normally when we have internet like this today, it means it doesn't work. Okay, so that was, how long ago was that? 20, 25 years. Or maybe you remember this toy. Year of introduction. Guess what? 98. Another guess? 2000. Exactly 2000. So 22 years. So anybody had Instagram on this? Oh, there was no Instagram at that time. That was 20 years ago. We didn't have smartphones. When we woke up, there was not checking of email if you didn't have BlackBerry, because there were no smartphones and no, there was nothing. So our world changed in 15 or 20 years dramatically. And guess what happened to our brain in the last 15 to 20 years? Nothing. We have the same operating hardware. So let's talk about this hardware now. And the last thing is the definition. I need a definition before I go further. It's just a tribute to all the software engineers out here. By definition, productivity is the value you get out of some effort. The effort can be time, it can be money, it can be your energy. And the value also can mean different things. So, do you productively invest your money? That would be a discussion after selling to companies. So, how much time do I have to invest in the money, and what's the return on investment? But that also applies to other things in life, and this is my compass. Every time if I'm thinking about productive life, is how do I get some value out of the effort I put in? So at the end of my life, because the effort, my time is limited, and my energy is even more limited than time, then the question becomes, what's the value in here? So let's talk about a few tools that you can use, and I hope you get something that you can use right away. So first thing, let's talk about 4-step productivity and the bias that we usually have. That's 6 years of my work in here. And then 4 types of time, about finding flow, about 3 spheres from Covey. Anybody read 8th Habit from Stephen Covey? Because 7 Habits is pretty known, but 8th Habit. Yep. Okay, so that's from that book. And so let's summarize it like best tools. I want to leave you with a call to action. You leave the room, and then you have the tool that you can use right away. So 4-step productivity. This is something I found that was lacking for me for the last few years. And I found out by training and talking with people that usually they want to improve just one piece of their productivity system at a time. And I coded it into 4 steps. And the step number 1 is usually connected with organizing your daily activities. So anybody has chaos every day? Okay, so usually some people start with this. Okay, I need to organize my day, okay, from the morning to the moment I fall asleep, I hope. And what pieces are here? The task list and the calendar. I have to know what to do and when to do it. That's one thing. How do I organize my time and my activities? Second thing is, okay, I know what to do, then how do I focus? How do I avoid distractions? How do I not check my phone every 5 minutes. The third box is about communications. You have Slack, you have email, you have 15 different channels of incoming communications. And then how do we effectively handle this stream of information that's flooding us from everywhere? That's another box. And then we can think about how to plan our days in 5 minutes. It's not about... Usually people dream about their days. It's not planning, it's dreaming. You dream about the ideal day, and 5 minutes later it's gone. Then it wasn't a plan, that was a dream. A plan is something that you can adjust to changing situation. So how to do it? Okay, I'll leave questions when I finish. Then step 2 is more about your weeks, about short-term projects. Okay, I'm pretty good with handling every day. So let's talk about project initiatives. You usually have like 5, 6, 7, 10 projects at the same time. We're juggling it, okay? And then you're a parent. You have hobby. You want to have some side business. And it's all in the air, including your health and mental health as well. So let's talk about how to see that the whole thing goes out of balance one day. Effective meetings, and then how to plan a week. Anybody planning a week? Wow, that's unusual rate. Step number 3. Okay, we're good with weeks. What's then? We have to talk about some things like strategy. It's a strange word, strategy. Where do I go? How do I get there? I don't know. Maybe I start another studies that will take me 2 years. Or I'm going to build a house and move. My COVID experience is such that I have to live somewhere where there's forest nearby. So that's more strategical decisions. You don't achieve it in 1 week. So we have to build a knowledge base, something like second brain that grows with you. And then we're ready for long-term planning. And the step number 4 is more about passion, vision, like things that make you alive. And then that you find your life full of meaning and purpose. And now an honest questions. So usually there are some people that are naturally driven toward the left. So step 1 and 2, it's like me, yes, driving every day. And you're not really comfortable with this step 3 and 4, like strategy, talking about vision in the company is like, boring meeting. So is there anyone, you can raise your hand, if you are drawn to the left and you rather avoid the right? All right. I'm an achiever in Gallup. That's me. Okay, I can be a world champion yesterday. That was yesterday. My counter today is 0. I have to do something. So that's my everyday challenge. And who has the opposite? You feel naturally driven toward the step 3 and 4. You love strategy. You love thinking big, visions and stuff like that. But then step 1 and 2 is like kind of boring. There's the details. Yes, you guys. Okay. Then does anybody feel okay and good in all of these 4 steps? Yeah, so we have some. And who is none? Like, none of it. Okay. So that's a joke. And this is also why I studied so many companies are founded by 2 founders. So Horowitz in startup world would call it type 1 and type 2. One is more toward vision and strategy, but then we need a guy who is really like detail-oriented and it's like task and task and task and task. And then we have like a visionary guy for a strategy. So I made a survey. I got about 200 results. If I were to make these 10 courses, imagine that you can vote for 3 of them. Which would I start with? Which are the most wanted by people? So I'll show you the results about. That's not a big survey. It's just 200 people, but it tells you something. No. That's this. So the more transparent it is, the lower the score. So 3 boxes that people are usually most interested are like life full of meaning and purpose, daily planning, and focus. That's a challenge of 21st century. The lowest score is email and communication effective meetings. I think we're just so bored to death with this stuff. We don't need anything about it. But also these strategic things and generally planning had a really high score. So there's something missing. Okay, let's go back to this. This is just for now a one piece that I'll need at the end. This also tells you maybe where you get the most value right now. You remember this, productivity is value divided by effort. Maybe you spend 2 hours on improving your focus now, and it gives you tremendous value. But then next month, maybe you will focus on this box, or maybe on this box. Or maybe you have so much mess in your notes that investing 4 hours in reading Second Brain from Tiago Forte will maybe help you organize your notes. So that's concept number 1. Number 2 is 4 types of time. I hope to leave just a few minutes at the end also. Maybe you want to discuss or ask some questions. The thing I have is I have big passion for these topics, but I also have a few thousand people that went through my courses. So I generally feel what techniques work for some different, let's say, people roles and personalities. 4 types of time. This is a concept that came up one day by reading multiple books and meditating about them. And it turned out that productivity is usually connected with goals. That's usually where you read productivity books and take productivity courses because you have goals, ambitious goals, you want to achieve a lot. But it's when you think about 1 day productivity. If you think about 1 year productivity, then some other subtle aspects go into play. Aspect 2 is called rest. And I don't mean a service. I mean the thing that you physically charge your batteries. It can be mental batteries, it can be physical batteries. How do we do it? How do you charge your internal battery? Any ideas? Okay, this can be nature. Yes, motor, sports. All right. Okay, so these are activities that we feel charge our internal batteries. It can be also something that we don't really care in 21st century, which is called sleep. Sleep is usually cut the first when we think about productivity, which is actually the least productive thing that we can do. It's like degrades our memory, our cognitive capacity, degrades our mental health, our emotional capacity to talk with people, and a lot of different things. One of the most productive things actually we can do is take more sleep. Not to, let's say, overdose it, but sleeping, I love sleeping. So rest. Then we have the third, which is relationships. And let's say this is the area where most people live. We divide our life between these 3 things. Okay, I go to work, I work on some goals, then I take a nap or a coffee break or, I don't know, do some kind of hobby, and then I take care about some relationships. Anything's missing here? Of course, many things are missing, but one thing in general for me, which is creative time, killed by 21st century. Creative time is in complete opposition to goals. Creative time cannot have a goal. It's you can see it crystal clear when you have fun with kids. So you see kids are playing. Usually when kids are playing, they do like this. They don't even realize how strange they look. And then the adult asks this question: what are you building? Because of course everything has to have a goal, right? Because if the child starts working, the first piece of wooden puzzle, of course, make a step toward the goal. That's not how the kids play. Many kids, they're halfway there, but they don't know what's there. It's something between castle and a rocket. And we'll see. This is the moment that we take a guitar just to play, or a drum just to play. There's no goal in there. And actually, goals are creativity killers, usually. If people are not trained, if you look how to have a creative time that can be really well connected with goals, I think the best thing is Creativity Inc. book by Ed Catmull, who is the CEO of Pixar for the last, 30 years. They deliver, a movie which is like a hit year after year. And their process is extremely creative. So that was one of the best books I've read on the topic of creativity that has some bounds. But that's concept number 2 that I need for the end. So we look for the balance. We have some weeks at work that we have to focus on goals, And then, okay, we've taken the loan, we have to pay it back. And if you don't, your organism will tell you, pay it back. Usually by getting you sick and you're lying. You'll give it back anyway. But then the question is, when do we do it? And is it our choice or just our organism tells you, okay, I think we misunderstood each other, like, go to bed now. So that's usually the way of communication. So this kind of balance that we move week from week. More here, more there. I need to work on relationship, and then I think I'm missing some creative time, and then goals. It's all floating. Concept number 3 is flow. Flow. You know this state? Actually, the whole world envy software developers because they see our flow, that we are completely lost in the activity we do, or we did, or we've been doing. So just a short reminder for those who didn't read the book from Mihaly. The 2 most important things in flow are the challenge level and the skill level. So when the challenge level is low and the skill level is low, then we have what? We have apathy. It's like, kill me, another like all hands meeting. It's like, I don't need any skill for that, and it's not a challenge. This is apathy. Then skill level is a little bit more, but challenge is low. We are bored to death. That's boredom. But if we have a lot of skill, but challenge is low, there may be a piece. It's not necessarily there. But the third is relaxation. Okay, you do something because it's so easy that you do it for relaxation. You can, I don't know, do something with your hands or play music or drive a car. Something that's so easy that you're relaxing doing it. It's not necessarily there, but in some cases it happens. What happens on this axis? Your skill is low, but challenge is growing. Oopsie. Then we worry up to the point of anxiety. Anxiety. You cannot sleep. Business is falling. The solution doesn't work. Customer is ready to quit. Or your relationship is nearly broken down. Or like anxiety. You cannot even think clear. Let's add a skill to that. We have arousal. Maybe we can do it. Maybe, if we work 24/7 for a week, that state, like you're falling asleep and you wake up and it's like, bam, 2 seconds later you start thinking about the thing that happened the day before. And then 2 most interesting for me today are missing. So your skill is pretty high, but challenge is not there yet, so we have control. We have control over what we're doing. And then the last piece is flow. What that means? That means that if you develop, you naturally flow from here to here, and then to here. So things that was giving you flow, let's say 5 years ago, now can be boring. That's today, Kuba here, we're talking about dopamine and how it works. It's exactly this component. It's not new anymore. It's not challenging. So, and now an important question. I have a pretty big sample of that. And if I imagine a situation. You take your task list or your project list or whatever, and you put it into one of these boxes. Let's say you take your daily plan. You have 6 things to do. And you put, okay, so thing number 1 is maybe here, thing number 2 here. And I found that people that are close to burnout usually have their task focused in 2 areas. Guess which one? Okay, let's take apathy out of the picture. 2 areas. Any guesses? Anxiety and worry. No. There are even worse. Okay, boredom, that's one. And the other is control. That's maybe counterintuitive. If your task list is mostly here and here, you're very close to burnout. That's an early sign. Now, why? Because these are these are only 2 boxes, maybe excluding apathy, that have no emotions. We will have a party today in the evening, and then what stories will you be sharing? Remember this project that we estimated so well that we delivered it on time with extra quality and the customer was happy? Who says that? Okay, remember that project that one developer mistakenly dropped one column of the database and the production stopped working. So we put a little hack so that our customers didn't know it's not working. And then we got out from backup this one missing column so everything worked back. These are stories we share, okay? This is arousal, maybe worry, anxiety. These are emotions we feel alive. And when you don't feel alive, you're bored to death or everything is under control. And then you think, So that's how we become dead. Maybe it's not obvious, but this is what I found out by working with people. So sometimes we have to maybe put some more challenge into it or do something more creative that will just spark this. I don't have any goal. I just play with this new framework. Or I want to learn something new just to play with it. It doesn't have a business goal or any other goal. It's just play. And 3 spheres from Covey. Actually, there were 4. And if you're curious, I'll give you homework to find out what's the missing one. It was interesting that you can analyze many of your activities from 3 angles, or 4 angles, but I talk about 3. The first angle is passion. How do you know that somebody is passionate about something? Suffering, okay. So passion can be suffering, especially if you think about movie passion. Okay, enthusiastic. Okay, there's some emotional component in it that you feel that somebody is, like there's some extra energy that's normally not there. So if you see 10 people are doing something and you see one person has some bigger amount of emotion, that means usually a passion for something, even if it's painful. Number 2 is talent. How do you know that I have talent for something? Or how do I know that I have talent for something? Okay, this is like a natural productivity. Okay, I'm naturally productive. I achieve a lot by spending little effort. Or I am very quick in learning this thing. Or I have some intuition that others lack. And I think, like, hey, it's easy. If you think something is easy and it's not easy for others, it means you have a talent for that. That's a clear definition for me. Can you have a passion without a talent? Sure. In the past, we even had a word for it. We forgot it. It was called hobby. Okay, we do something because we love it, and then we don't care if we're good in it. It's just so much fun just by doing it that we don't even need to be good. So that's talent. Can we have the opposite? Can you have a talent without passion? That's really rare, but that's usually unfortunate and a lot of pain in such areas because this is what you know. You don't know how I feel. We talked about today about a lot of depression and like mental health. I can fake really well, and you can fake really well, and you know it. So you don't know nothing about how I really feel, but I know. What you know is, do I have a talent? And usually this is our school system. Our school system and our work will give you feedback. You're good in it. You're great in it. But then nobody knows how you feel when you do it. So this can produce a terrible outcome, that you do something that you're good at, but you hate. And a lot of really painful stories. The dimension number 3 is value, especially value for others. How do you know you're given a lot of value to other people? Okay, feedback. That's a scary story. I don't know. I have to ask you, okay? I made a presentation, or I'm pretty close, just a summary and that's it. Or maybe no, it's like 10 minutes more. But you can know if I have passion for something, maybe some talent, but I have no idea if this presentation had value for you. You have to tell me, or maybe you have to fill the survey at the end. Because otherwise, yes, the question was, can I have passion and talent and at the same time provide you no value? Sure. That's that's like half of my life. So we focus on company values, passion, vision, talents, and okay, our task is to put these three circles together. Okay, something that makes us alive, something that we're good at and can be best in the market, and something that provides enormous value to our customers because we hear them. That would be ideal. It's also for your life. You have your passions, your talents, and sometimes people tell you, okay, this one slide was like a killer for me, or this one idea, because I had like 35 slides and I don't know, maybe. So I have to know from you. If you just, after this presentation, come to you and tell me, this is the idea I really loved, then I have feedback and I know, okay, this is the concept that is important to people. Okay, so let's summarize it. Best tools and how you can use these 3 or 4 techniques. Before we jump in, we have to talk about how we learn. When I moved from software engineering into teaching, that was a strange time. I found a concept very simple concept. You may know it. That may be stupid simple for you, but for me that was like an eye-opener. And it's called the Kolb cycle and how adults learn. How do we adults learn? We have some experience. I get an argument with my colleague from a team. What happens next? Okay, I have a reflection. I have a reflection that he's an asshole. That can be one reflection. Or reflection can be when I'm hungry, I'm exaggerating, okay, or I don't know. Or on Fridays, I'm much more, let's say, aggressive than in the other days. So that sparks the curiosity. What happens next? We go to knowledge. Okay, why does it happen? Or how can I use clean language or things that we talked in here today to communicate better? So I start Google, nonviolent communication, or internal family systems, or things like that. And then what happens next? We plan an experiment. Let's try it. And then by this, we have another experience. So this is called cycle, because we are like looping in circles. But that was before the Google was invented. Then we have cures of Google. What happens now? I have experience. Something doesn't work. What do? I Google it. I go to, I don't know, Stack Overflow, okay? Stack Overflow doesn't work. Knowledge and go back. That's it. It works. Oh, crap, it doesn't work. I look for another solution because this one doesn't work. So we miss expertise because expertise is going in these cycles and letting our brain connect the dots. That's called expertise. I made so much mistakes in life. You made a lot of mistakes, like in the code, on production, in business. Like, yes, that's our expertise. We make a lot of reflection and then we plan experiments. This is the way. And today, we have like a lot of just these connections. I collected 200 solutions that work, but I have no real expertise now. So 2 pieces that are usually missing is the retrospective and the experiments. You can make a course on how to plan a year or how to plan a week. But try to find a course how to summarize a week or how to summarize a year. Usually there's no such thing. So if we're missing the retrospective part, how can we plan? Anyone try to plan the budget for vacation? Did you try that? What usually happens when you plan budget? What? When? Okay, usually it's like plus 50%. Oh, anybody built a house? It's like, it had a budget. Oops. That's usually the budget of building a house. Why? Because we don't take retrospective. We talk with five people that build their house. They say, add 50% minimum. So like 50 to 100%. That's usually normal overhead, let's say. So this is retrospective and experiments. There's no definitive answer to many of these things. We have to plan experiments. So coming back to this equation, and let's wrap it up. If productivity is value per effort, then you can retrospect now, last week, last month, last quarter, last year, last 10 years. What gave you the most value, and what were the times that actually this equation had the biggest value? Or what experiment can I plan next week or next month or next year to increase value just a little or increase value 10 times? That was my case. Okay, I'm a corporate worker, I do my job, it all works well. But then the question is, how do I increase my productivity not by 10%, but 10 times? Or I have my sales, it works okay, my company is fine, doing fine. How do I not increase value by 10%, but by 10 times? So experiments, how do I change effort just a little bit? So in this case, there were not many people, I expected more, drawn toward the left. Usually it's good to find, if you're drawn to the left, maybe spend 1 hour or two more to the right. Think or talk with someone about how to make strategy. That was my cures. I was really effectively delivering weekly things, but when I stopped and I learned about strategy, I had to stop. I cut probably 5 projects and left with 1, and now I got really progressing. So I had to learn how to do strategy because I felt so comfortable here. It was really hard to leave that space. 4 types of time. You can ask yourself every week a question, even now. Okay, take your last week. How would you rate these 4 types of time? Which is the strongest? Which is the weakest? Maybe just improve a little bit. Maybe it's relationships, or maybe you lack creative time. How do I do a small subtle change next week just to improve it by little? That's the small experiment that makes our Kolb cycle running. And I tell you, for me, these are different things depending on the season. I do different things in the spring and different things in the autumn, and summer for me is usually crazy, completely. So even my planning changes with the season. Challenge level, I have many stories with what happens here. I had one task, debugging one task, which was, maybe that's a too long story for now, but I had to analyze probably 20 gigabytes of text files looking for some patterns. That was 15 years ago, a reproduction of and logs from 40 different cards, and then sudden crash, and then go find it. 20 gigabytes of text files from 40 cards from probably 16 hours of execution. And it was so boring that I thought I'm going to leave that work, really. I thought, because it was assigned to me, I thought, I'm going to leave. It's just too much. I was not born to analyze log files. Okay, for the first day or first 2 days, I was really energized, but then I realized how big it is, then no. But I tried to push that thing back to flow. You have any idea how I could do this? Yeah, that would be good to automate. Actually, I made a tool that helped me analyze files and find some patterns that I was looking for. And this way, I also improved a lot my pattern matching skills. So this is the thinking, how do I think put back to flow? And these 3 spheres, like if you can take your last week, last month, you can summarize the last company you worked for. What were the things that gave you the most passion, the most you've seen the most talent, and what were the things that people thank you most? So, and of course you can make tests like StrengthsFinder that can tell you, these are my top 5. Developer as the first one that changed my life. Okay, I realized that I'm a developer, but I need to be a developer, people developer, not software developer. So we talked about 4-step productivity, that it has multiple steps, and usually we get comfortable with 1 or 2, but usually not all 4. And it's good to be in these boxes that we're normally not there. 4 types of time. Where is your balance? Maybe you can improve 1 type of this time next week just by a little. Finding flow. When you're lacking flow, you get to boredom and control. That's a beginning of burnout. And 3 spheres from Covey. How do I maybe increase passion or talent or value a little bit? How do I get more feedback and stuff like that? And then best tools. So what you can actually do in practice, invest 1 hour into the other side. Break on through to the other side. So if you're normally a more visionary person with strategic goals, read a book or make a course of like this nitty-gritty details of daily planning, maybe. Or you know what? You usually are super conscious of the skill you're missing. The thing you can do every week. Rate 4 types of time that this week and improve one of them by one. Thing you can do every week. One task that's boring for you or is in control that has potential to go into flow. Find one and improve one and keep the cold cycle running. Another one, make a summary of these 3 spheres. That can be your last work, your current work, your last week, your last month. Retrospective, experiment. Retrospective experiment, that's my mantra. And then make a retro for the last month. That's also my favorite. Like, what had the biggest value for you? Many things happened. Okay, you've been to conference. You heard a lot of talks. You, made a lot of experiments. Then, okay, from the perspective of last month, what were these top 3 things that had the biggest value for you? You may be really surprised. I do it every month, and every month I'm really surprised what's going on. So, if you want to talk, I'm staying here till tomorrow lunch probably. If you want to find me, I'm just transitioning from my Polish business to English business, which is called 4stepproductivity.com. There's a newsletter, and I hope you join. And 5 p.m. if you want to talk about influence of music on let's say IT world and my life. 5 p.m. I think in the main room. I'll spend 30 minutes maybe, and then if you want to play these instruments, there will be like 2 hours for you to experiment. So that may be your creative time. Okay, thank you.